first, I know that these are our must-have apps, and y'all are all gonna have different apps that you like and are passionate about. So on the way out, there are QR codes on the back door, and if you scan that, there's gonna be a survey that y'all can tell us your favorite apps, and then maybe we'll do a follow-up talk and present from the crowd what their must-have apps are. So there's each 2 on either side of the door, and if y'all would do that for us, that would be great. Hopefully this talk is something that you'll be able to go home and apply. I've seen some crazy things today, but it's like, I understand it and I kind of get it, but I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to use this. So I hope that you see something in this presentation that you're able to go home and install, and it will make your job better. We got to show the most important slide, so make sure, if you haven't already read that, to read that. I'll be doing some of the demos today. They're going to be just little snippets so that you can understand how to use some of the more complicated ones, just to give you a way that you can install it and know where to start. If you have more in-depth questions, feel free to ask us. We're going to have a Q&A at the end. Because of time, they will be limited, but I hope it will give you a good footing to start with. I am Noah Woodcock. I've been Splunking now for about 3 years. The first year was just education and taking the classes, but I have been actually working on site for about 2 years now. I graduated with my bachelor's degree from A&M when I was 17. I am working on my pilot's license, and all that tossed in with Splunk leads for a pretty busy life, but I love Splunk, and that's what we do here at Splunkster.
Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Woodcock. My name is spelled with 3 G's. The third G says Ori. And I got this big woodpecker chin. And I used to work in telecom. I come from a telecom background. That's 3G, right? I just gave you 3 memory cues to remember who I am and what my name is and where I came from. So hopefully, if you see me around here or other places, I like to help. So don't hesitate to come talk to me. I've been doing Splunk for 10 years. I've been on my own with a consulting company for 6 years. We have been around and we have seen a lot of crazy stuff. And these apps that we're presenting today, we've used these apps to get people from completely broken situations into completely functional situations. And I'm really hoping that you'll try some of these, that you'll hear that, hey, I'm having that problem, or I think I might have that problem. Please do try some of these apps. This is the kind of thing where you can go home and do it, and you will have the benefit. They're in 3 different categories. There's basically, is your data okay? So you all know how to get data into Splunk. It's easy, right? But do you ever take a really close look at, is it really in there right? And if you haven't, believe me, you're going to have trouble. Will you kill that, Noah? Yep. And then there's a config management section we're going to cover, and dashboard development. And we're going to get into all those in detail right away. Now, in this initial batch of apps, it's the typical garbage in, garbage out problem. And we do a lot of health checks, and everywhere we go, the people are surprised at just how bad it is. Splunk is a time series index tool. It's not really a real-time tool, but it really cares about time. And if you don't get time right, you didn't get it right. You know, your stuff will be 90% right, 95% right. And Splunk's really good at saying, hey, I see this problem. I'm confused. I'm guessing here. Like, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. But if you don't ever go out and look at those logs, you'll never know that Splunk is having this problem. It will still index it. It'll just be indexed wrong at the wrong time slice. The first tool we use when we're looking at this is Data Curator. And Data Curator, these first 2 apps, well, all 3 of these apps in this category have a large number of screens and options, a large number of places to go. Start out on the date parsing issues one. If you install this app and go to date parsing issues, I guarantee you, you're going to see a large number of problems show up. This will allow you to categorize them by type. It'll do a little bit of explanation as what this log means, why it's important, and how you can fix it. It does a real good job of triaging and helping you sort through what types of problems you have. So you got to get Splunk finding the timestamp correctly and quickly. You could spend most of your time on your index or indexing an event looking for the timestamp, or you can tell Splunk exactly where it is, and it does it like that. So if you're having performance issues with your indexers, if you will tell Splunk where to go in each source type to get the time, you're going to get like half your indexer CPU back. And it doesn't take that much time, and it doesn't take that much effort to do it. So tell Splunk where your time is. This app will help you do that. Once you get time right, so Splunk finds the time, it finds it quickly, it finds it the right thing every time, because you might have just like a 9-digit number that looks like a time T, and Splunk sees that first, and it goes with that, and it's really a transaction code or something, right? So once you get it right, MetaWoot's a great app. The main thing I use in MetaWoot, it defaults you to the correct screen. It defaults you to the main MetaWoot screen, and this is where we're going to do a demo in a second here. And what it does is it says, we think these times are wrong because the times are in the future, or the times are too far in the past, or the times are consistently off, like they're always 30 minutes off from when they were indexed. And it allows you to quickly sort through. It's like Visine. I'm gonna pull the plug here and put the demo out. In MetaWoot, basically, it's like Visine. You got to get the red out, right? And it's got a heat map on the red color, and you go through the ones that are most far off, and you straighten it out. So this is the landing page of MetaWoot. Noah's going to talk about this.
Yeah, so the first thing you notice is this bright red up there. And if you look to the right, you will see that it says it's logging behind. Now, Splunk sets the time on the data based off of the OS of your indexer. So if your indexer is in India or China, that data will be timestamped with that timestamp, time zone, sorry. So this latency says that it's 3,000 minutes behind. And now that says it's logging behind, which means that's never going to show up in your searches. If you're working in security and you're tracking brute force logins, that's a problem. You're going to let that attacker hammer forever. Unless you have a search that searches back that far, a lot of them, where I've seen, are 24 hours, 48 hours, and that's not going to catch that. So that guy's going to be able to hammer until he gets in. So it's always important to start with the indexes that are logging behind before moving to the ones that are ahead. Now these ones down here are logging ahead, which means that eventually they will show up in your searches, but they'll still show up 750 minutes late. Because they're in the future, you will have to wait for that time zone to catch up to yours, and then for the data to move into your searches. So that is why that's not as big of a problem, because those will show up in your searches, but it will be delayed, which, depending on your industry, could be really important. And a lot of this, as I mentioned, is just a time zone issue. So you can see a lot of these are pretty close, like the 750, 749. There's the 2 millisecond latency, but most of those are going to be on in the hour or the half hour off, and you can just look at the indexer, look at the host, and log into that and fix the time zone. And as soon as you do that, your data will start being properly applied to those rules, and everything will be back into synchronization. Our next app that we're going to be doing is the alerts for Splunk admins.
Yeah, so the key thing there is if the event itself doesn't have a time zone in the event, Splunk has to guess. And it says, well, I'm an indexer, I have a host OS, nobody told me what the time zone is, I'll use my time zone. And that's almost always wrong. So fix that. It's really easy to fix. Well, it's not that easy, but it's easy enough. And there was a really great Splunk talk here last year with a really great name. The name of the talk was, how'd you get so big? And this is the partner app. Alerts for Splunk admins is the partner app for that talk. Now, I'm assuming a lot of you guys are the engineer types. You like to do your investigation yourself. You like to go in and see what's wrong and fix it, which is the first two apps. This app actually provides a few dashboards, but a whole bunch of alerts. So If you want somebody else to figure it out and tell you the priority of it, this is the app for you. Or if you do the fixing, and then now that it's all good, you want to know when it starts drifting bad, you got a new host that needs a time zone setting, this app will proactively alert you on all of these problems and other ones. This is a great app for admins. This will save you because you don't need your customers telling you something's broken. That's bad. That means somebody else noticed it. That's bad for you. This will allow you to notice as soon as something goes bad, you'll get notified. You can go in and fix it, and you can use those other tools to help you to do it. The second set of apps is about configuration management. So one of the strong lacks in Splunk is that it really doesn't let you do any kind of version control natively. There are great talks from this year and previous year on using GitHub and Puppet and Chef and using SVN and doing version controls. But you know what? That's a huge effort. And one of the great problems of Splunk is it goes from proof of concept to mission critical like that. You guys all know this. Like you brought it in, you were doing something cool, and your boss saw it, and now the C-suite's all over it, and you don't have any protections in at all. And basically, you're one button click from somebody on your team deleting something, and then none of it works, right? So if it hasn't happened to you, eventually it's going to. Eventually, you're going to have something important break, and if you haven't made provision for how to go back and put that thing back, you're going to be in big trouble. So these apps are not the gigantic big solution. Go find those other talks. Go do that thing. Put that initiative in place and get there. These are things you could start out with right away, tracking some of these things so you can do these rollbacks and diffs on the fly. You can install this in a day, and you have your safety blanket. You have your insurance there for if this happens. And then start working on those other cool things. We got another demo here. First one we're going to take a look at is Lookup Editor. And one of the things you probably already using Lookup Editor, it's built into ES, but it has a versioning system built into it that you may not be aware of that Noah's going to show you right now.
All right, so you're in Lookup Editor, and I found this because lookups are intimidating. If you have a huge lookup and you have to use that output lookup command, that's really final and it's really scary. For me, when I was a beginner, I knew SPL, but I wasn't great. And I mean, I was a certified power user. I have to know everything, right? I'm a power user. But it was really final, and I messed up once, and I said there has to be a better way to do this because surely this is a common problem. So I looked it up, and I found this Lookup Editor, which if we had to rank them, this would be my number one. So it has all of your standard tools like copy, paste, cut. And you can also, as if you were in Excel or Google Sheets, when you right-click on the end, you can insert a row above or below, which helps for organization. A lot of the times, it's hard to get your lookup organized. It's all jumbled up. This way, you can add everything in order. You can have whatever's in here numbered. If somebody has multiple accounts, you can add a name column and have a, Noah Woodcock, laptop 1. Whatever you'd like to do, you can easily organize all of your data. So let's insert a row above, and then we'll paste back in what we had before. And I'm done. Now I'm going to go test it, and I hit save. I wanted to insert that below. Now it's in the wrong order.
What's that blank row?
So now I have a blank row. I didn't delete that row. I don't want that. My boss is not going to be happy. All I have to do is scroll to this most recent one, which is right here. Revert, hit OK, and it takes it back to the way it was. So the one shortcoming is that you cannot change in the GUI the names of those backups. So it is important when you're done to make sure everything's good, because if 4 other people on your team go in and make changes, it's going to be really hard to figure out where you're at. But this is really handy, especially on large lookups, for organization and confirmation that you did get everything where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's a good point for admins. It makes these backups and you cannot delete them from the GUI because they're not named CSV. So they don't show up in the GUI. So if you're using Lookup Editor, backups are a good thing, but they're also a potentially bad thing because they can accumulate and bust your bundle. So if you're using Lookup Editor, whether or not you're using this for this feature, you need to know about this feature because you could bust your bundle size and you have to go on the CLI to manually delete it, get out of there. This is participation moment. First of all, this is scratching your head. This is raising your hand, all right? So help me out here. How many of you guys are using KV Store in your Splunk environment? Well, let me see your hands, okay? I've got about maybe a quarter of the room. Keep them up, keep them up. Now, if you've never had a KV Store corruption, keep your hand up. If you've had a KV Store corruption, put your hand down. Okay, so I've got 2, 3, you count them up. Tell me how many
You've got
most of the room.
5 people with their hands still up.
I had about a quarter of the room with the hands up. I've got 5 people with their hands up. You can put them down now. So that should tell you something. If you're using ES or you're using ITSI, huge portions of your configurations are not stored in configuration files. If you ever go, look, where's my glasstables.conf? It's not there. Those configurations are stored in the KV Store. So you made this huge investment in your service discovery or in your glass tables, right? And you have all this that's perfect. Management uses it all the time. It's up on the SOC. And you have a KV Store corruption, and all of a sudden, all of that is broken. It's all gone. And it's gone. I mean, maybe you can do a restore, a resync, or maybe not. If you haven't made a backup of your KV Store, you are looking at a disaster. All your incident details, those are all in the KV Store. So Gemini KV Store Tools is a great tool. I highly encourage you to do some kind of routine backup of your KV Store because you're almost certainly going to have a replication and corruption problem, and it's going to be a disaster for you. You may have to start completely over from scratch on your investment in those tools if you haven't done a backup. It's absolutely critical. So please don't let that happen to you. You can push backups to disk. You can push backups to, or maybe I think it's a pull. Push only. You can push it to another search hood cluster, so then you can just verify that it actually is there, or you can dump it to disk. But do something, please do something. Don't let disaster catch you off guard and have no options. Now, this goes back to configuration management. Lookup Editor was a configuration management option. Gemini Tools is backup. I said there's a way to get this started right away. There are a couple of tools like this. I like this tool because the author's a really good guy. He's really helpful. But if you install this, what this will do is, yes, in the _audit index, it does tell you that this knowledge object was changed by this guy on this date. What it doesn't tell you is what changed, right? So if you have something that broke production, you know who to go smack, but you might not be able to smack him hard enough to get him to undo what he did, right? So, but you should keep trying. But I'm just saying, it's like diminishing returns. So, what this will do is this will actually log the differences. And you can get a delta within this tool. You can say, hey, between this date and this date, for this file or for this app, what were all the changes, the actual changes. And it doesn't have a rollback feature like Lookup Editor does, but if you have the delta, you can roll it back yourself. And this can be installed and put in place in one day. It requires a summary index, but it's no big deal. It's reasonably easy to set up, and it's super cheap insurance, right? And there's no native tool. Like I said, go the GitHub thing. Go do the big project with Puppet and Shep and all that. Do that, but don't wait for that, because that's going to take you months. Do this first. Get something in place now so that you have an option. You have a way to go back and figure out what it is. Okay, I'm going to talk about dashboards now, and you better dismiss that. Yeah. If you are getting paid by the hour, being in the dashboard business rocks. I get paid by the hour. You guys don't. Most of you guys are employees. Being in the dashboard business is the worst because it's It's a never-ending churn treadmill. If once you get visibility to somebody important, it needs to be green, it needs to be purple, it needs to be trellised out, it needs to be this, it needs to be upside down. Like it never ends. So the best thing you can do for yourself to get your time back, and it seems scary because it's not natural. You're the Splunk guy, right? Like you want people to come to you, but there's so much you can do as Splunk. Help people do their own dashboards. Get out of the dashboard business, because honestly, if you don't have this in mind now, you will be in the dashboard business, and it stinks. It's terrible. So simple XML isn't all that simple, but it isn't all that hard either, all right? So if you have not installed the Dashboard Examples app, let me hear some applause. Anybody do dashboard examples?
Whoa, this isn't the keynote. Asking for applause?
Yeah, come on now. So Dashboard Examples is great. It's categorized a bunch of different ways. So if you say, I want to do a geo thing, let me see the geo ones. And it actually has a bunch of cool explanatory panels around it. It's great. So put that app in and you use it for you. But more importantly, point your users to it. Build the dashboard once. Go ahead and be in the initial dashboard business. Build it once and then say, okay, here's your basic dashboard. Now, if you want to do something different, go to the Dashboard Examples app and try and do it yourself. Teach your internal clients how to do their own dashboards. And there's nothing better than the Dashboard Examples app. It is really, really, really good. You heard the applause. It's a great app. The second app I recommend in this area is Developer Gadgets. In the Dashboard Examples app, you'll notice this lower section that does these token breakouts, and it's really slick. Well, the guy that did this app, he took that code and built it into a separate app, so you can take the best part of the Dashboard Examples app and put it into your dashboards. And you can turn it on and off at will. It's just one little line of JavaScript at the top of your form. And so you got a form that's not working right, you can debug it, and Noah's going to give you an example of that right now. Like I said, it's just one little line of JavaScript. You install the app, put the JavaScript in, and you have all these tools available to you at your fingertips.
All right, so I'm going to show you those couple things that he mentioned. But first, something that I discovered the other day was that if you adjust those inputs on a dashboard from the default, whether it's the time frame or you're setting filters on something that you care about that other people might not, if you bookmark that dashboard with the settings in it, it will save those different forms that you changed. Like if you went from an hour to 24 hours, when you bookmark it, when you go to that bookmark, it will go back to the settings that you saved. So if you have a dashboard that you're constantly tweaking to get it the way you like it, bookmark it and you'll never have to do that again. So a couple things that he was mentioning. First, I will show you where that line of JavaScript is, so that you can cut that and put that in whatever dashboards you'd like. So you just go to the top and hit edit, then switch to the source. And it is this line right here on the top will give you this pop-up on the bottom. And I'll show you what that pop-up does here. So just the top line, not both lines.
Can you make that bigger? Give me a Control+.
Yes. So it is going to be right, so let's center it here. It's going to be this script all the way through to the true. That will give you that Gadgets tab on the bottom that allows you to show all of the forms and everything. I'll give you all a second. Everybody looks like they're good.
These and Splunk's recording all of these, and last year all of the recordings for the entire conference were out within 2 weeks. The year before it was like 2 months. And I've heard that they're planning on getting it out in a weekish this year. So you'll be able to see these unless the recording was broken.
So one of the good things is accordion panels that are now not here.
Refresh.
I'm going to refresh the page. Okay,
Yeah,
that was
doesn't
weird.
cache the JavaScript.
So it doesn't cache the JavaScript. So these have accordion panels. If you have a huge dashboard that you're working on, it's kind of a pain to hit save. You scroll to the top, hit save, scroll back down. So if you're editing this bottom panel, you can collapse all those accordions and just be able to go up to the edit and bounce back down to where you were at without too much trouble. And then down here is the gadgets tab that he was talking about, which allows you to enable that debug mode. And you can also hide the inputs if you'd like, just to make sure that you don't accidentally change something while you're debugging it, because that will change the values. You can hide that input, and it will hide those drop-down menus and keep that locked in. So now you'll be able to see these token debugs down here, and you'll be able to see everything that's going into your dashboard. Sometimes when it's all clumped into your Splunk search behind the dashboard, it's a little confusing, but it breaks it all out here so you can see exactly what is going into the dashboard. And this form dot is normally not selected, so if you're looking for those, be sure to select that checkbox, otherwise those will not be included. All right, let's get this switched back here.
Yeah, so one of the things he mentioned was the reason the bookmark works is the form inputs are stored as URIs.
Yeah.
And on that screen, one of the things that it says is default, submitted, and URI. Those are the three columns. Default is the default value that's in there. It's hard-coded. It won't change. The submitted is the current value, but URI is the value that's currently on your URL, so you can see all the potential values. Another great app, it's super, super simple. There are a ton of apps that do this kind of thing, but I like this one, Info Button. It does two really simple things. One, I've been in the dashboard business a long time. I get paid by the hour. But one of the things you need to be aware of is people generally won't scroll more than one page. And they really like to have your dashboard panels on one page. But they're willing to scroll another page. So shoot for one page, settle for two, but if you go beyond two, you got to put some drill down in or something, right? Because they just won't use it. So the problem is, if you have a complicated thing you're presenting with your dashboard and everybody can just click on it and go in there, you need some explanatory text somewhere, right? And that explanatory text, you only need it one time for each user, and then you need it to go away somehow. And if you're just using standard simple XML, you're going to put it in the title or in the second title, and the second one is smaller, but it still takes up a lot of real estate that you could put another panel in. That's why I use this tool. It provides two things. It provides a little eye, which when you click on the eye, in line with your panel, it has an accordion pop in and out for just one thing of text, right? You can put HTML in there, you can put images in there, but the point is, this is where you say, here's why this panel is so important, and if it shows you this thing, you need to go to this website and do this thing. That's where you put all of that stuff on why it's important and how to use it, and it defaults to off, so you've got it there, and when they click on it, they say, oh, here's the information on how to use this panel. And then the other thing that it does is it provides a question mark. Same thing, the little question mark, and the difference between the I don't mean eyeballs, I mean the letter I, and the question mark is, the I is inline text, and the question mark is pop-up dialog. Just two different ways to hide text that is on-demand text that people only really need to see once. And this will save very, very, very precious real estate inside of your dashboard panel that right now most of you are probably wasting with text that people only read once. And then you don't have all the panels you could have. So this is a great one. There are a ton of apps like that out there. And I got to apologize. I know we said we were going to do 10 apps. We're only going to do 9 because we wanted to leave some time for Q&A. But I do have a bonus slide down here with some other apps that we might have used. So it's really 15 apps, but we're only talking about these 9. Would anybody like to ask a question about any of these apps or any of the things we touched on as problems that you should be thinking about? Because really, you need to be proactive. The point of this session is be nice to future you. Do a little bit now that's easy so that when you have a big problem later, like overboard demand for dashboard help or an outage or somebody broke something, that you actually have a solution that you can do your job better and keep going. All right, so we got a question right here.
You got to take our
Is it hot?
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, so has anybody talked about, is any of these apps talking about data duplication? Because that's a problem that we are facing, and we want to identify.
I'm hearing a little bit of echo. Can you talk a little bit more loudly?
Yeah, data duplication.
Okay.
Duplicate data that's coming into the
Duplicate
index.
data.
Yeah, yeah. Is any of these apps addressing that or identifying problems?
Probably if there is something, it would be in Data Curator. I know that if you're having problems with duplicated data, the problem frequently is the use of the use acknowledgement capability, use ACK, because it has a failure of ACK when it really did succeed, and that's kind of a bug. So even if you found that you were having duplicate data, your options are extremely limited in what you do about it. The only thing you can really do is turn off use ACK. And then if you do lose the event, you won't see it. So you're kind of in a hard spot. If you use ACK to make sure everything goes in, you get an occasional duplication. If you don't use it, you get an occasional drop. So it's kind of pick your poison. But if you're having that problem, lean on Splunk to fix use ACK so that it's more accurate. I would consider that a bug, but it's been a long-standing issue with a lot of our clients. And most people say, I'll deal with the doubles because I can't afford to risk dropping one here.
That's Splunk answer too. They are like, hey, you got to pick between the two poisons.
Yeah, so I don't think it's that important to look for the problem because you don't have options to fix it. But if it is being looked for, it's in Data Curator, but I'm not sure that it's there.
Okay, I have another question, can I? This about your mention about giving developers the ability to change their own dashboards, right? So
Right.
You're talking about developers, not users, right? In production, you're talking about developers.
Yeah, everybody that you're working with should be self-servicing his own dashboards, right? That should be the goal.
Okay, because if the users, then they will have the ability to change something in production, and then the whole life cycle of development, QA, UAT to production gets broken.
For sure, you really should have a search head. You can spin up a VM, right? A real small VM search head for development and point it at your production indexers. That's what we encourage a lot of our people to do. And the other thing you need to do when you're teaching users to do their own thing is give them their own workspace. Just go to apps, manage apps, create app, and say Joe's workspace. And then give it to Joe to work in. And the other thing you can do when you do that, give it its own color. Go to, in the UI, for default.xml, you can select a color code for that bar on top, like all of Splunk's are green. Give Joe red. Like if Joe's the one that keeps screwing stuff up from production, give him a red one so that he remembers, oh, my upper bar's not red, I'm in the wrong area. I'm in the production area. I need to work in the red area where I have a copy of that I can modify for me. So give your users their own app, it's just 3 clicks, and give them their own color so that it's really obvious, I'm in my app. And then you can go into you can edit the user configuration and say, hey, when Joe logs in, Joe automatically lands in Joe's app. So when he logs in, he's automatically in the right place where he can't mess up everybody's copy, he can only mess up his copy. So you just compartmentalize that, even if you have to do it in your production search head, give him his own dev workspace, give him his own dev app.
Anybody who has a question, I'll bring the mic to you.
Turning backups on to an external disk for the KV store, does that require admin level?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Turning the backups on to an external disk for KV store, does that require admin level?
That's a great question. It probably does. I always have admin when I'm setting it up because that's what we do. But I'm positive, well, there are 3 or 4 different KV Store backup utilities. So there's another one called, it's on this slide right here. TA Sync KV Store is another great one done by one of the guys in the trust. So if you find that the KV Store Sync tool is too wide open, like people are doing backups all the time and filling up all the space on your search head, or they're blowing up your other box that you're syncing it to. Try some of the other apps. TA Sync, KV Store. One of the benefits it has is it can do a pull as well as a push, right? So maybe you'd rather have this installed on your secondary search cluster, and you pull the backups in, and you're the only one that can log into that cluster. Then the tool's not even on the production cluster, right? The tool is on your backup server, and you're the only one there, and you pull the backups in instead of push them out. So if that's your concern, this app will definitely solve that problem because you don't have to install it in production. It just uses the REST API to get what it needs. So do this one and do pull backups instead of push backups. Problem solved.
Anybody else?
Got one right
We
here.
got one. All right.
I told you were going to get some bonus apps. So that was 10. Hey, we hit it. You got your 10.
Yeah. Are there any apps to track the schedule searches performance, whether they are being run or Splunk is skipping them?
You're talking about skip searches?
Yeah.
Yeah, skip searches are really easy to see on the management console. So I should really mention that. It kind of goes without saying, but now we're saying it. If you haven't set up a monitoring console, do it. A lot of people have a dev search head. You can set it up there. But on the monitoring console, it will look for skip searches. It will look for architecture problems. When we do a health check, the very first thing we do is we set up a monitoring console and go in there and run all the health checks that are built into the monitoring console. And skip searches is one of them. And there are a bunch of reasons for skip searches. But if you have skip searches, if the monitoring console tells you you do, and you don't think you're running a heavy search load, there are some bugs and quirks. Open a support case. They've seen it all, and they've got a, they'll say, check this, check this, check this, check this. They'll really quickly help you out, and it may not be that you're running too many searches. It may be that you have something configured wrong, not enough pipelines or some other easy to fix things like that. But monitoring console is where you need to go to look for that problem.
Okay. Like I can check the skip searches in that monitoring console, but can I check all the scheduling searches performance? Like if I have 30 scheduled searches, each scheduled search is taking 2 to 3 minutes of time. Can I check like it's already being run for 1 minute, it may take 1 more minute to get completed so that I can schedule other searches and I can monitor all those scheduled searches at one place in single window.
So you want to get an overall look at user search activity? Is that what I'm getting out of there?
Yes.
Like you got some
Not
dumb
user
users.
search activity, only scheduled searches.
Yeah. There are several apps like that, and I was going to cover some of those because bad user activity is definitely something that kills production search performance. And the admin app, the app Alerts for Admins, has a ton of that in it. So if your problem is users doing stupid stuff, or even worse, users doing stupid stuff after you've told them and trained them, don't do that, then I get the Alerts for Admins and put up a wall of shame and make that the landing page for him at least. And when it gets alerts, make sure you update the wall of shame so when he logs in, he sees, oh wow, look, here's an alert that says I'm doing this stupid thing. So that's how I would handle that for sure. And you might put it as the default app for everybody. I don't know. Put it up on the SOC. But that app is really good at, when he said, how'd you get so big? Part of the answer to how'd you get so big is my Splunk still works. Now that we have 50 users and 50 terabytes, it's still a usable system because a lot of people, by the time they hit 50 users, Splunk's no longer usable because there are too many people doing stupid things. Right? So that Alerts for Admins has a ton of content in there that will notify you, hey, stupid is doing stupid again. Go hit him with a clue by 4. So that's the app for you, for sure.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, try that app. That is a really, really, really good app. If I had to pick one for everybody to try, it'd be that one. All right, looks like I don't think we have anybody else.
think
So
that's
I'm
all.
going to give you 5 minutes back. Thank you for your time.